Good morning. Today we are going to look at section P5, product sum factoring. So, in our last section, we looked at factoring out the greatest common factor. Today, we are going to look at product sum factoring. So, before we get into factoring, we're going to do a little activity. Okay? So, you're going to find two numbers whose product is 1 and whose sum is 2. So, for instance, two numbers whose product is 1, that is 1 and 1. The sum of those two numbers is 2. Now, the next one, find two numbers whose product is 12 and whose sum is 7. So here, 4 times 3 is 12. 4 plus 3 is 7. Okay? Now, go ahead, find two numbers that give you the product and that give you the sum. Okay, go ahead and pause the video. I'm going to be back in about 5 seconds. Alright, so two numbers whose product is 45 and sum is 14, 9 and 5. Two numbers whose product is 45 and sum is 8, 15 and 3. Two numbers whose product is negative 12 and sum is 4, 6 and negative 2. Product of negative 12, sum of negative 4, negative 6 and 2. Product of 28, sum of negative 11, negative 7 and negative 4. Product of 49, sum of negative 14, negative 7, negative 7. Product of negative 64, sum of 0, 8, and negative 8. Product of negative 72, sum of negative 1. Let's see, this is going to be negative 9 times 8. And then product of negative 72, sum of 1, 9, and negative 8. So we're going to use this to help us with the product sum factoring we do today. So if we have a quadratic trinomial like this, okay, with a leading coefficient equal to 1. So we have x squared plus bx plus c. Leading coefficient of 1, that means there's that invisible 1 right here. Then you can factor if possible using the product sum method. So I'll go over in the future what it means if possible. So you're looking for two numbers that when you multiply, you get a product that gives you C and a sum that gives you this number B. Then you would write it as x plus that first number, x plus that second number, that gives you a product of C and a sum of B. Okay, so this is key right here. Okay, so let's go over some examples. So, example 1. If I have x squared plus 11x plus 24, I'm looking for two numbers that give me a sum of 11 and a product of 24. So I could do 1 times 24. That'll give me a product of 24, but it doesn't give me a sum of 11. I could do 2 times 12, but that does not give me a sum of 11. I could do 3 times 8, which gives me a sum of 11, and a product of 24. I could do 4 times 6, but that doesn't give me a sum of 11. So I'm looking for which two numbers give me a product of 24 and a sum of 11. So 3 times 8 gives me a product of 24 and a sum of 11. So when I factor this, I now get x squared plus 11x plus 24 equals x plus 3 times x plus 8. This is factored down. I initially had x squared on top of my first term. Now all of these, the highest term, the highest exponent is a power of 1. Okay. Now the order doesn't matter. I could do x plus 3 times x plus 8, or I could do x plus 8 times x plus 3. Okay. Now, how do you check if this works? Redistribute. Multiply. And this whole thing should equal this. Okay. Now, example 2. Okay. Example 2. You're trying to find two numbers who multiply to equal 20, but add to equal -9. Okay? So I could do 5 and 4. 5 times 4 is 20, but 5 plus 4 is 9. That doesn't work. I can do -5 and -4. -5 times -4 is -20. Sorry. -5 times -4 is +20. And the sum of those two is -9, which would work. Okay. Now, there could be other ones that aren't correct. For instance, -10 times -2 is 20, but the sum is -12. Okay. Now, how would I write this? X squared minus 9x plus 20 equals x plus -5, x plus -4. Now, the plus and the minus, we don't need them next to each other. So we could just write it as x minus 5 times x minus 4, or x minus 4 times x minus 5. Okay. Let's do another example. X squared minus 2x minus 48. Okay. We could do 12 and -4, but we would get a sum of 8. We could do 8 and -6. We would get a sum of 2 and a product of -48. We're close. We could do -8 and 6. Get a product of -48 and a sum of -2. So now, using this, we know that x squared minus 2x minus 48, if we factor it down, it equals x minus 8 times x plus 6. And remember, the order of those two doesn't matter. It could be switched. Okay? So, here's 8 questions. Go ahead, pause the video. Try factoring these 8 questions. Okay, come back in about 10 seconds.